Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel that's too cheap for an intro. Today we're talking about the Primary Arms GLX 2X Prism optic, specifically the one with the reticle for 300 blackout and 762 by 39. Primary Arms is the only company, other than Tragically, still carrying a torch for Prism optics at this point, but they're probably only 2 or 3 iterations away from beating Tragically at their own game. And the GLX lineup is Primary Arms' mid-range optics offering. I think it's kind of the sweet spot for PA's optics division. The SLX or Silver lineup is at the bottom of the range. Most of those are very cheap and they don't really offer anything I'm particularly interested in. The PLX lineup or Platinum series is PA's top tier optics. They look great and all that, but for the money you're probably better off buying Nightforce. The GLX or Gold optics are right in the middle. They seem to be the best balance of quality, features, and value. The Goldilocks option, if you will. The GLX 2X is a lightweight compact prism scope available with a choice of 3 different reticles. The one I have is calibrated for 762 by 39 and 300 blackout. There's also one for 556 and 308 and a third one for 9mm. The GLX comes in at approximately 11 ounces depending on what mount you use. Out of the box, the optic is set up for a 1.4 inch height, which is more or less absolute co-witness, though that isn't really applicable for a magnified optic. 2 taller risers are included in the box along with a bunch of extra hardware. One for about 1.5 inches, which is sort of lower third co-witness. Again, it's magnified, so not really. And the tallest riser is for about 1.6 inches, which is the one that I used. The tall riser gives a really good balance of cheek weld stability and comfort in my shooting experience. The GLX 2X has a generous 3.5 inches of eye relief. With the way that I shoot, I found it worked best mounted with the eyepiece approximately flush with the back of the receiver, the same way I would mount and use most LPVOs. The optic and mount have a lot of rearward sweep to them, so you can easily get it that far back while still clearing a backup iron sight. The mount base is not QD though, just uses a pair of Torx cross bolts, so I was happy to just yank the backup sights right off the gun. The 2X Prism should be extremely durable, and with a high visibility etched reticle, it does not become useless if the batteries run out. Even so, it's compatible with the ACOG Mini mount pattern, so there are many aftermarket options for QD or different heights. I'm pretty sure those are the only 2 dad jokes in this script, so sorry, but we should be done now. The illumination on the GLX 2X is very good. I would consider it daylight bright, but everybody has their own idea of what that means, so I'll explain myself. It's definitely not red dot bright like an LED illuminated LPVO. For example, the Steiner PX4i, Vortex PSD1-6, or Razor 1-6. But it's brighter than most LPVOs, which usually only manage to be barely daylight visible. So on our scale, with twilight visible all the way on one end and red dot bright all the way on the other end, the GLX 2X falls a little bit above the middle. Primary Arms gives the battery life of the GLX 2X as 20,000 hours on medium settings from a CR2032 battery. If you were going to be really using the illumination, you'd probably have it cranked up to 11 basically all the time. If you're using it red dot style in low light, you might back it off to 9 or something, but you're definitely not going to get 20,000 hours of battery life. But you do get way more life than most LPVOs, and the GLX 2X has auto shutoff and a shake awake feature, which Primary Arms calls auto live. It's basically the same as SIG's Motac. So if you want to use the illumination, you can just crank it up and leave it on, and it's not going to kill itself overnight. And even if the battery runs out, you still got the whole reticle to use. The main attraction of the GLX 2X, and the reason I wanted to try it out, is the reticle. Supersonic, 300 blackout, and 762 by 39 ammunition already has a bit of a rainbow trajectory, and the subsonic ammunition is an order of magnitude worse. Heavy 30 caliber projectiles can still do damage past 200 yards, but at that point they're really dropping like a meteor. To maximize the hit potential of 300 blackout and to some extent 762 by 39, you badly need a way to compensate for drop at distance. The reticle has a large outer horseshoe for fast sight acquisition, and on the inside a small chevron and 3 small drop dots below that. Regardless of caliber or load, Primary Arms suggests zeroing the tip of the chevron at 50 yards. The drop dots then correspond out to 500 yards with supersonic ammunition or 175 yards with subsonic ammunition, which gives you an idea of how tragic that subsonic trajectory really is. This optic also has built-in ranging at the bottom of the reticle. You can range a man-sized target out to 500 using either height or shoulder width. Proper built-in ranging is one of those features I really like on a magnified optic because you're not reliant on a laser rangefinder. It's easy to forget how useful that is when you shoot mostly at a known distance range where all the targets are evenly spaced and clearly marked. So how useful is this reticle in practice? The large outer horseshoe, when used in conjunction with the surprisingly bright illumination, makes for a really fast sight picture at close range. You can't use it like a red dot because the binned-in aiming concept is total bunk, but it is still pretty fast. The chevron, as is generally the case with primary arms optics, doesn't do a lot for us here. Yes, it is infinitely precise, but so what? For all those tight groups you're shooting at 50 yards with a 2-power scope? Where you actually need that precision is on the farther shots, and then you're holding on the smaller dots below the chevron anyway. The worst case scenario is a shot at 200 yards with supersonics, which requires you to hold at the bottom of the chevron, so the chevron is covering part of your target. It's frustrating, and there doesn't seem to be any need for this since you already have the bright illumination and the large horseshoe to draw your eye. The BDC dots below the chevron are also a bit optimistic. The holds are the most useful for subsonics because they only take you out to 175 yards, which is still a decent distance to be using a 2-power scope at. Trying to make hits on a target at 500 yards with only 2x magnification and a tiny dot is really hard. Out beyond 300 or so, it became very difficult to see the tiny dot contrasted against the target, and the illumination doesn't help because it only illuminates the chevron and the horseshoe. So the drop dots are definitely nice to have, they just aren't going to help the scope do the job of an LPVO or even a standard ACOG. The glass quality is not the culprit here. The GLX 2X has excellent glass, particularly for a sub $400 optic. It's just that you can only expect to do so much with a 2-power scope. Again, the reticle is calibrated to 2 different calibers and is not precisely true to one load or barrel length. The actual subtensions given in mils or MOA are not available in the manual. They might be on the internet somewhere, but I couldn't find them with a cursory search. If you want this reticle to match up to your gun and your chosen load, you're going to have to crunch the numbers and adjust your zero so the holdovers are more accurate. You could accomplish something similar to what the GLX 2X does with a red dot that has ballistic drop information in conjunction with a flip-over magnifier. For example, the SIG Romeo ballistic circle dot reticles, the Holosun HS503G with the ACSS reticle, or the EOTech 3-2 or 3-4. There's even the old EOTech 2-2. I'm not sure if they still make it, but it had a 300 black reticle with the holds for subs and supers engraved on the top of the hood for easy reference. Now that I like. It's easy to remember the supersonic holds on the GLX 2X, and they correspond very nicely with the ranging bars, but the subsonic holds are a little bit arbitrary. While I was shooting with the GLX, I kept checking my phone to remind myself what the holds for subs were. Anyway, what was I saying? A red dot and a flip magnifier would give you true red dot performance at close range, it would give you the option of passive aiming with night vision, and a 3x or 4x flip magnifier is more usable magnification than 2x. That's just how math works. But the GLX 2X is lightweight, probably lighter than just a magnifier by itself. It's inexpensive, durable, it's not reliant on batteries for function, and it has the ranging bars. The lightweight and rugged simplicity of the GLX 2X and compact Prism optics in general is one of the reasons I think they fit the hikeable lightweight brush gun POU. Brassfax would call this a mountain gun, or maybe he'd call it a field gun. I can't really keep up with his weird version of English. The GLX 2X makes an interesting comparison to the ACOG TA33, which is the 3-power long eye relief compact ACOG. They're very similar on paper, small, light, longer eye relief than typical Prism optics, and both are available with a 300 Blackout BDC reticle. Brassfax and I compared the TA33 side by side with the GLX 2X on a recent expedition. The GLX 2X was just a lot nicer to actually use. The field of view on the TA33 is so narrow it doesn't really feel like a magnified optic at all. It's like a Tragicon MRO with extra steps. The GLX 2X feels more balanced and was just nicer to use in general. We can also compare the GLX 2X to Primary Arm's own SLX 3X Micro Prism, which is even smaller and even lighter and has more magnification. The SLX 3X Micro sacrifices a bit of eye relief to get a wider field of view. It also feels more usable than the TA33. One of the reticle options for the 3X Micro is for 762x39 and 300 Blackout. It integrates the shoulder width ranging into the stadia lines of the BDC reticle itself, more like an ACOG and less like the standalone ranging system on the GLX 2X. The SLX Micro Prism lineup is a little newer than the GLX 2X, and it feels like a more mature product. It is an SLX, not a GLX, and it is a bit cheaper, but I don't think that translates to worse glass quality or anything. To help stretch 300 Blackout supers a bit further, I think the SLX 3X Micro would be a better choice than the GLX 2X. For getting the most out of 300 Blackout subsonics, I think the GLX 2X is a more balanced choice. In an ideal world, we'd be using the SLX 3X for shots beyond 200 yards and the GLX 2X for shots inside of 200 yards. Of course, you never really get to choose how that's going to shake out. So for making the most of subsonic ammunition, I think the GLX 2X is the better optic. Also, for an AK, the extra eye relief of the GLX is going to really help when it comes to mounting it, because that's just sort of an AK problem everybody already knows about. I don't really see the purpose of the 5.56/308 version of the GLX 2X. The 9mm version could be a fit for like a Ruger PC carbine backpacker setup, but I don't think that gun should exist in the first place. Overall, the GLX 2X is a good fit for AKs and for certain 300 Blackout builds. It's not going to find a permanent home on my 300 Blackout Broke Badger build, though. I'm going to switch it out for an LPVO and see if I can make that work for a mix of super and subsonic ammunition. We are probably past what this BDC can do. We're at 200. The lowest dot is for 175 with subs, and we are also zeroed for supers, so this could be really borderline. Okay. If I hold the lowest dot on the top of the steel, I think that's about what we need. It seems kind of doable. 200 yards with subs. Flight time measured in minutes. Who knows, I might go crawling back to the GLX, or I might abandon the concept of subsonics entirely and go to the 3X, or I might abandon the concept of supersonic entirely and go back to a fucking red dot. Oops, I said a swear word. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this channel, please subscribe. That's the #1 way to support channels on YouTube. You guys probably already figured that one out. There's also a link to a Subscribe Star page in the video description. You can join my Subscribe Star to support the channel more directly and meaningfully. You also get access to bonus videos and bonus podcast stuff and some weird Discord integrations that really don't actually matter. See you next time.